I wouldn't be enjoying this lovely scene if I hadn't done an experiment that I was pretty sure was not going to work out. And that experiment is one coming out to Etobicoke. Oh wow, look at steps. Where's that go? But also riding this wheel on mud. Who would have thought that would have worked? So the experiment is, I live downtown Toronto. The happening place, the activity. And every time my family members come to Etobicoke, I'm like wailing and gnashing my teeth, I'm like, it's far, what's happening there? But then, I did it. And I did a second experiment. I said, before I even go in and say hi to my relatives, why don't I just take a wheel around, pull this out. And then I was like, wait, as I was wheeling, I was like, they have a park nearby here. So I went to the park. And then I was wheeling along, and then I'm like, let me do one more experiment since the experimentation is going so well. What else could I experiment with? I experimented with using the wheel on mud, and who would have thought it would work? Like, who would have thought that? And now I found a little secret garden, a secret staircase now in someone's backyard. So it's just interesting that all these things I think aren't a good use of my time, won't have value, the benefits will be exceeded by the costs. But the thing is, what do I know if I haven't done it? How do I know that? With 99% chance, I shouldn't. I feel like I know it, but I only know 20% chance or 30% chance. Because if you haven't done something before, by definition, you don't know much about it. If you've only done something 5 or 10 times, versus you've done your typical daily habit 100 times, you know far less. So experiment and try and collect more data. What do you take away from that? What's one thing you could do differently? What's one experiment you could run in everyday life? What's one thing you can do that you think is not going to really pan out, but someone else thinks you could do it, or someone else does it, and try and see if there's a way that benefits, or just see if maybe the first 5-10 times don't, but you could find a way to make it work for you by getting around the constraints, the problems, and figuring out how to get the benefits. Experimentation is not just does it work or not. That's a simple experiment. In fact, that's not a very good experiment. I'll be blunt with you all. That's an experiment that you would call like a phase 4 clinical trial or something. Does it work or not? The better experiments, you're confused about where you're in the experimentation process. That kind of experiment, does it work or not, comes after years of research from a health or a science perspective. The experiments you can run are, might there be a way to get this thing to have some benefit? I'm not predicting. Might be a way to test this out and figure out how to make it work, how to make this useful. And keep in mind that, for example, to create a really good intervention program, like a mental health program that helps you deal with stress, that can reduce your stress levels, that can take 5 years of research. At the end, they do a clinical trial. I think it's a phase 3 or 4, you'd have to Google it. And that's when you've got a program A, and you compare to nothing. But that's when that program A, it took years to develop. So you have to do lots of experiments before. You have to experiment on asking someone a question. You have to experiment on testing out what kind of questions work well for what people. So there's many sequences of hundreds and thousands of experiments before you get to that next level. But what's the problem? People think that final level is where they should start. And so if you're trying to do what normally takes 5 years in 1 minute, well, you're not going to do that well. And so you actually have to think to yourself, what are the other kind of micro experiments, the qualitative, the simple ones I do? Tens, hundreds of them to kind of get there. And in fact, that's what I think a lot of what our lab does actually, is basically make it very easy for people to run those simple micro experiments so they can learn and improve. But it requires reimagining what experimentation really is. So we'll take away from that. It's an interesting insight. What would you write down as a note or share with someone else?